If you know anything about superhero movies, then you know that, for the most part, they really struggled to find their footing before the MCU came in and established the genre as a powerhouse in the film industry. Before the MCU, a lot of these films were not just bad, but atrociously bad. I'm talking the likes of Catwoman, Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, Daredevil, and, of course, Ghost Rider. Now, some of you may be wondering, Ghost Host, why make a review about an abysmal superhero movie that came out all the way back in 2007 instead of making a review on a much more better and more current film? And there is a very simple answer to that. You see, I was on vacation in early August visiting Disney World with my brother and a close friend. I had a blast, Disney World was amazing, but after we got back from one of the parks one day, we turned on the TV and picked a random channel to play in the background as we got ready for bed. As fate would have it, the movie that happened to be playing on that channel was none other than Ghost Rider. I had seen reviews of it before, but nothing could have prepared me for how insanely awful and goofy this movie was. We ended up not being able to finish the movie because we had to get up early the next day to go to another park, so we did the only logical thing and rented the movie for $3.99 so we could finish it later. After we finished watching Ghost Rider, I knew I had no choice. I was under compulsion now, and so when I got back from my vacation, I started working on this very video. Let me just say that if you have not seen this movie, it is almost like a fever dream at points. The dialogue is so corny, the editing is very awkward and jarring, and the CGI is just, well, this. It's definitely a very bad movie, but it also falls under that category of, ayo, this film fails so bad that it's hilarious to watch. So now with that little introduction out of the way, allow me to begin reviewing one of the worst and goofiest superhero movies ever made, Ghost Rider. The movie starts off with this Western narrator guy giving exposition for how the Ghost Rider is someone who is chosen each generation to collect contracts for the devil. I guess Cuphead and Mugman are this generation's Ghost Riders. Anyways, there was this rider who was sent to collect a contract that was worth 1,000 evil souls. Apparently, the rider knew that this would be too much power to give to the devil, so he just rode all the way out to meet the devil and then psyched him and dipped, hiding the contract so that the devil could never find it. The narrator emphasizes the fact that the rider did something no one else had ever done before, which was outrunning the devil himself. But in this shot, the devil gives like no chase at all. So, I mean, it didn't really seem like it was too hard to outrun him. You outran an old white guy with a cane. Like, good job, I guess. This whole sequence doesn't make much sense in the grand scheme of things due to a number of things we're going to find out later in the movie. Firstly, the devil can control the Ghost Rider since they are under contract, so if this guy started riding off with the contract the devil wanted, he could have just forced him to come back. Secondly, the devil was shown to be able to teleport later in the movie, so like, how exactly can you outrun him? He can just always catch up. Thirdly, later on, we see that the devil has been constantly watching Johnny Blaze ever since he signed the contract. So if the devil can always see what his rider is doing, then how would this Ghost Rider ever be able to hide the contract where the devil couldn't find it? Fourthly, bro, what is this goofy editing? I mean, like, take a look at this. Like, I did not alter this footage in any way. This is literally how the scene is edited. I mean, it's just so goofy. Yeah, goofy. Goofy. Wow. Okay, so after that little intro, we see a young Johnny Blaze. He's performing at the circus with his dad and impresses this girl in the audience. Later, Johnny and his dad are walking after the show, and Johnny's dad coughs like one time, which is movie language for he's really sick. Like, anytime someone in a movie coughs or has blood coming out of their nose, that automatically means that they have some kind of life-threatening illness or condition. Johnny goes and visits that girl by this tree, and she tells him that her dad doesn't want her to date him. So Johnny decides that they can just leave their lives behind and live together. I don't know why he has such an extreme reaction to this. He is legit willing to leave his dad and everything he knows behind just to run away with this girl that he just like barely met at the circus. Blaze returns home to find his dad passed out, and he finds a piece of paper in the trash that says cancer has spread. And you may be like, Ghost Host, give us more details. What kind of cancer? Where has it spread? How long does his dad have have? And to the 4 of you that cared enough to ask about all of those things, I would say, who knows? We can hardly see anything else on this paper except for the phrase, cancer has spread. At least we know he has cancer though. After reading this, Johnny is working on his motorcycle when a perverted old white guy, oops, the devil, shows up and asks Johnny to work for him. Johnny is understandably like, bro, you're really weird, get away from me. And the old devil guy offers to heal his dad if he will agree to, and I quote, ride for him. Yeah. He shows Johnny the contract, and Johnny somehow accidentally gets a paper cut and spills a drop of blood on the part where you're supposed to sign, and the devil counts this as him signing the contract and closes the deal. Bro, I know he is the devil and all and doesn't play fairly, but Johnny clearly didn't sign the contract. A drop of blood accidentally fell on the spot where you're supposed to sign. That doesn't count as him signing it. Anyways, Johnny wakes up the next day to see that his dad feels much better, and we can tell this by the very subtle way his dad just openly tells Johnny that he used to be really sick but is no longer sick, and then proves it by spinning his hat before he puts it on. Any lesser movie might have tried to, subtly convey his dad was healthier through clever contrast and taking the time to have his dad do things that he used to not be able to do when he was sick, but Ghost Rider knows that it is too good for those dumb, clever ways to establish things, and it just goes ahead and oafishly has his dad blurt out that he doesn't feel sick anymore. And that's pretty much all we have to go off of. Oh, that and the one cool hat flip thing he did. But regardless, Johnny's dad does his next circus show, and before he goes to jump into the ring of fire, the devil can be seen standing in the hallway, and Johnny's dad completely botches the jump and dies. For some reason, the movie uses the laugh Bowser had in Hotel Mario as the devil laughing. This sequence is just so hilariously dumb. The laugh sounds nothing like what the devil's voice actually sounds like. It sounds more like Andros from Star Fox 64 than some random old white guy. And how did his dad choke on this jump? It wasn't like his bike broke or anything. He just intentionally crashed his bike right into the fire. You would have to try to miss the jump this badly in order for this to happen. Anyways, Johnny is really sad and he starts driving away before he is cut off by the devil, who does, well, this for some reason. Johnny crashes his bike before we get this really weird fade, and then he gets up. Johnny blames the devil for breaking the deal, but the devil tells him that he did cure the cancer, so technically he did fulfill his end of the bargain. The devil tells Johnny that one day when he needs him, he will come back, and tells Johnny to forget about friends, family, and love. For some reason, when he says friends, it just shows Johnny by himself, so did he not have any friends? I don't know, I guess Johnny takes this advice super seriously because he goes to the spot he had arranged with Roxanne, the girl, but then he kind of just looks at her and leaves. Bro, why did you go all the way over there just to not ride away with her? Either don't show up or go there and tell her your dad died and you need some time, or actually follow through and leave with her if you're going to go through the trouble of going all the way to the meetup spot. This movie makes absolutely no sense. And in case you haven't noticed, this movie's pacing is a runaway bullet train kind of fast. There's legit 5 seconds of character development and plot setup, and then it just moves on to the rest of the movie. It makes everything feel empty, rushed, and therefore all the payoffs that happen later in the movie just feel completely bland because the setup was essentially non-existent. It's just a grade A example of how to not write a movie. Somebody play that clip from The Gray Man real quick.
This is quite possibly the most spectacular failure. This will be taught in schools as the primary example of exactly what not to do.
Okay, so we cut to the nowadays Johnny Blaze, played by the one and only Nick Cage. He does this really bad CGI bike jump and epically fails and nearly kills himself, but we later come to find out that the devil won't let him die because of the contract. I just want to play a clip really quickly to show you all how wacky and goofy the editing is here. I like how the audience is just clearly different shots of people in front of like a black blanket because they had this CGI the jump scene. So obviously the people weren't going to show up in a stadium because they had no actual stadium to shoot in. Johnny's friend and the pit stop crew leader guy, Mac, tells him that he has to stop doing all of these dumb, ridiculously deadly jumps or he's going to get himself killed. Johnny seems to want to continue to do increasingly dangerous jumps in order to like prove that he can't die or something. I don't know, they don't really explain it clearly. Blaze just keeps saying that you can't live in fear, but there's no reason for this to be his theme or mantra because there was never a moment where he was afraid of a jump. So there's not really some kind of fear that he needs to overcome. And it's not even like being brave is the reason he keeps doing all of these death-defying jumps. It's almost solely to prove to himself that he has really been chosen by the devil for some kind of job and therefore can't die. Any way you cut it, it just doesn't make a lot of sense for this to be one of his main themes throughout the movie. And it just seems like incompetent writers threw it in there to make it seem like there was some kind of lesson he had to learn. Meanwhile, in the desert, we see rip-off Edward from Twilight walk towards this motorcycle gang bar. We can tell he's evil because when the bouncer guy says that there are only angels in there, he kills him and then takes 5 seconds to finish this phrase.
Angels only in there.
Angels? Really?
You got a problem with that?
As a matter of fact, I do.
As we come to find out, this guy is actually called Blackheart, and he is working with Aang, Toph, and Katara to find the contract worth 1,000 souls and take over the world. Why does he want to do this? Well, because he's evil, duh. Yeah, people aren't kidding when they say that most superhero villains are extremely shallow. Now, I call these three guys Aang, Toph, and Katara, and that is for two reasons. One, because they each can manipulate the air, earth, and water, and two, because I legit forgot what the real names are. And I'm not even entirely sure if their names are even said in the movie at any point, so I'm just gonna call them by these names for the rest of the review. I mean, honestly, we don't even really need to know anything about them though. They are just Blackheart's goons, and they have like less than 5 minutes of screen time throughout the movie. So back with Johnny Blaze, he is about to do this motorcycle jump where he jumps the entire length of a bad CGI football field, which is 300 feet. Not only is this not scientifically possible, but it would technically be 360 feet because each end zone is 10 yards or 30 feet. So you have to tack on the two end zones to the field total of 300 feet because the field goals, which he is using as his marker, are at the back of each end zone. So yeah, the people behind this movie can't even do math. But before Johnny can do the jump, he runs into his old crush, Roxanne, who is a reporter now. After being really weird during the entire interview, Roxanne leaves upset because Johnny doesn't give her anything to use during the interview. Johnny believes that this is his second chance. I forgot to mention, that's another one of these unjustified fake themes that this movie tries to shoehorn in there, and he does the jump. The CGI is even worse than the last time somehow, but this time he sticks the landing before immediately leaving and chasing down Roxanne. He almost kills himself by getting her to pull over, and he gets her to agree to go on a date with him at 8 o'clock that night. Now, at this point, some of you may be wondering why I think this movie is so awful. Let me just be the first to say that my review does not do this movie justice. Ghost Rider has terrible pacing, awkward dialogue, very bad CGI, and maybe some of the weirdest and most jarring editing I have ever seen. If you are not going to watch the movie itself, then take my word for it. It is hilariously bad in almost every aspect of filmmaking. The next scene has maybe the weirdest editing from the entire movie. Blackheart and the Avatar gang meet the devil, otherwise known as Mephistopheles, in this empty park. They ask Nosferatu to flicker the lights a bit, and the devil tells Blackheart that he will send his rider to stop them from getting the contract worth 1,000 evil souls. Cause I guess that will make Blackheart too powerful for the devil or something. I don't know, again, they don't really explain anything. Before we move on, I'm just gonna play a clip so y'all can understand the unhinged goofiness that is this scene's editing.
I know what you're after. It's my contract. They're my souls for this. Now, deal with my rider.
So Johnny is getting ready for his date when the devil decides that today is the day he needs him to become the Ghost Rider and stop Blackheart from collecting the contract and becoming more powerful than him. The devil has a way of only messing with Johnny right before he is supposed to meet Roxanne. Like both times he interfered with Mr. Blaze, it had to be right before he was going to go meet with Roxanne. Don't know why that's the case, probably just really bad writing. But anyways, Johnny summons his inner 2-year-old and says, "I don't wanna." But the devil is just like, "Sorry bro, you signed the contract." To which I'm like, no, he totally didn't. A drop of blood accidentally fell on it. He definitely didn't sign it. But regardless, because Johnny's blood fell on the contract, the devil can control him and force him to drive to this random warehouse and become the Ghost Rider. Just a side note really quick, while talking to Johnny, the devil goes into this little speech about how watching Johnny is like watching an investment grow, citing how Johnny has become a famous daredevil now, but like, why does he care about any of that stuff at all? It's not like it will make him a better Ghost Rider or anything. It literally does not affect the devil at all. Also, the devil says the word video games, so that just felt really weird. And also, he whispers Johnny in a really weird way into Blaze's ear. Anyways, Nick Cage starts screaming until all of his skin burns off and he becomes the very clearly mid-2000s level CGI Ghost Rider. Earlier though, Blackheart, Aang, Toph, and Katara went to these railroad tracks looking for graves to find the grave of the original Ghost Rider. Remember, the one that was so fast that he outran an old crippled white guy who didn't even try to chase him? Legend has it that the contract worth 1,000 evil souls is buried with him. Look, I don't know the rules for these contracts, but if dude didn't want the devil to have it, why didn't he just destroy it? Would he have been taken to hell court or something for illegally violating a devil contract? Like, just burn the contract or destroy it somehow. That way, the devil could never get it. At the railroad tracks, this old guy tells them that they can't be here. They ask him where the graves are, and he tells them that the church would know, and then they just kill him anyways. What jerks. Apparently, this random warehouse was right next to where Blackheart was, and he and the Ghost Rider get into this little tussle, a little scrap. Aang swoops in and hangs Ghost Rider in chains, and Blackheart does this very weird evil laugh like they just won, because yeah, clearly the flaming skull superpowered demon guy is just gonna die from 1 second of asphyxiation. Johnny breaks out and turns the chain into a weapon, much to the surprise of Blackheart. Johnny walks towards Blackheart before Katara grabs his leg, and then Toph drives the truck into him. I don't know why everyone else gets to use their powers except for Toph. I guess the CGI budget must have ran out, so the director was just like, yeah, have the Earth guy drive a truck into him. Of course, Ghost Rider survives this, and none of Toph's friends warn him when the Ghost Rider is literally right behind him and they are all staring at him. Ghost Rider wraps Toph in his chains and the other Twilight rejects dip, leaving Toph to die. It almost seems like the group wanted Toph to die. I guess we know which one of these dudes was that one friend that wasn't added on the real group chat. After the whole fight, Ghost Rider is just randomly driving around and sees this lady getting mugged for her purse, so he goes over there to provide some vengeance. But like, why is he doing this right now? Wasn't the devil in control of him and forced him to transform and attack Blackheart? Is the devil controlling him to stop this mugger? Or if he is doing this of his own accord, then why couldn't he just break out of the devil's control before and not attack Blackheart? Why does this movie even exist? Why is Rebel Wilson randomly in this movie? Why did Joe Biden call his sister the love of his life?
Does Joe Biden have a brother? I'm lucky I have 2 younger brothers. I'm the oldest of 3, and I've got a sister who's the love of my life.
These are all questions that we'll probably never get the answer to, so let's just skip over them all and not pay them any attention. Except that Joe Biden one, somebody investigate that. Johnny burns this mugger's knife by getting stabbed and then has this guy look into his eyes. We then see this really bad fiery montage of people that this guy has wronged, and oh my goodness, Squidward, was this guy like some kind of serial killer? I thought he was just like a thug who mugged people. Apparently he's done all these terrible things to a bunch of different people, because there's all these screaming people in this montage that goes on for way too long. So this little trick is called the penance stare, as we'll come to find out in the next scene, and it shows someone all of the evil they have done in their lives, or something like that, and reflects it back on them, blah blah blah. I don't really exactly remember, and I don't feel like going back to find out, because if we all are being honest, this movie is not worth it. The penance there causes the mugger guy to just die or have creepypasta hyper-realistic eyes or whatever, and the Ghost Rider leaves. Following that whole ordeal, Ghost Rider randomly drives to a random cemetery before the sun comes up and he passes out. Changing back to Johnny Blaze. He wakes up and there's this random old gravedigger guy who found him. This guy has the same voice as the narrator who told us about the original Ghost Rider in the beginning. Remember, the one who ran away from the crippled old guy? And he has all of this information about the Ghost Rider. Gee, I wonder who he'll turn out to be. Surely he is just a random old guy with all of this intimate knowledge about the original Ghost Rider and all the powers the Ghost Rider has, and not the original Ghost Rider himself. This gravedigger tells Johnny that the contract worth 1,000 evil souls is supposedly buried with the old Ghost Rider. Can I just take a minute to point out the ridiculousness of this plot device? It legit sounds like a 6-year-old came up with this plot. Oh, and then there's this contract for the devil that's worth 1,000 evil souls, and it's not just any ordinary souls, it's worth 1,000 evil souls, and that many evil souls would make the devil too powerful because it's a lot of evil souls. Yeah, like, this whole plot device is so ridiculous that it legit feels like a parody. Like, it's not meant to be taken seriously. But unfortunately for us, it is. The old guy and Johnny talk for a bit, and then he goes to find Roxanne and apologize to her for missing his date with her, since he was occupied with, you know, turning into a flaming skull guy. She is at the site of the melted road, interviewing people about what happened. She tries talking to the police detective about what they know about the events that took place last night, including that old railroad guy who was murdered, and he is a real stinky jerk to her and tells her to get back to the kitchen. Okay, just kidding. He actually tells her to just leave him alone. Oh yeah, I also kind of forgot to talk about this earlier, but back when Johnny was Ghost Rider and fighting goons, it kept cutting back to Roxanne waiting for Johnny at the restaurant and continuing to get more drunk as he didn't show up. The only singular reason I bring this up is because at one point, she drunkenly asks the waiter if he thinks she is pretty, and this dude doesn't say yes, or not comment on it, or even say no, but bro goes out of his way to make a face and says, like he was so indifferent to it that she was completely irrelevant to him. Not only is this one of the most savage and base things I've seen in my entire life, but I also have no idea why the waiter would ever do this. I mean, at a real restaurant in real life, bro about to get fired on the spot. The manager don't want his employees embarrassing customers like that. Like, if I was at work and a customer asked me this, mind you, a customer that I think we can all unanimously agree at least isn't ugly, and I know that the typical customer service rules mean that the customer is always right, I would have either said yes, or at the bare minimum, even if I really didn't want to say yes, I would have ignored or redirected the question, not just straight up say, and walk away. Wow, I wasted over a minute of the review just to talk about this one 5-second scene that has no relevance to the rest of the movie, but you know what? It was absolutely worth it, cause the rest of this movie is not. Johnny finds Roxanne somehow and apologizes. Roxanne says some really mean things cause she was hurt by Johnny standing her up. Johnny tries to explain, but then realizes that if he tells her the truth, she'll think he's crazy, so he just lets it go and she leaves. I kid you not, like the very next scene, Roxanne stops by Johnny's apartment to apologize for what she said and make everything up with Johnny. And by make everything up, I mean make out and hook up. Why is she so different in this scene? Literally like a minute ago, she was super mad at Johnny and saying all of these mean things. And then the movie doesn't show us her reflecting on what she said or showing any remorse about it privately. So it just comes across as really random and out of place for her to all of a sudden be all lovey-dovey with Johnny now. Like, the movie is showing us one thing, and then in the next scene, completely gets rid of what the previous scene established. It's just not how you should make a film. I should also really shoehorn in here that Johnny is reading some kind of book to give himself control over the demonic powers inside of him, so he can control himself when he is in the Ghost Rider form. And to do this, he must focus on the fire element within or something. I don't know, bro. This low-key sounds like some kind of advice Sensei Wu would give to Kai in Ninjago, not how you would control demon power inside of you. Also, another thing to point out here, if Johnny needs to do this, admittedly very basic focusing and meditation that takes like 5 seconds in order to have control over himself and not just mindlessly obey the whims of the devil, then why did the original Ghost Rider have the ability to disobey the devil in the first place? Like, shouldn't he also have been forced to do the devil's bidding and therefore would not ride away with the contract? I highly doubt that he also read this very specific book on how to control demon power inside of you. Just another example of how dumb the writing in this movie really is. Okay, back to the point of the scene. Johnny knows that it is almost nighttime, and that means that he will turn into the Ghost Rider. So he asks Roxanne to leave. When she starts questioning him about his weird behavior, he finally tells her the truth, and just like any sane person would, she thinks he's completely bonkers. She thinks that Johnny is trying to lie to her with some kind of lame excuse, and she thinks that he came up with this extremely insane sounding story about him working for the devil simply because he didn't care about her so much that he would make up an excuse that was so dumb that there was no way she would believe it just to be a jerk. I don't know about her, but to me, that just seems like really contrived and no one would do that. Anyways, Roxanne leaves and Johnny goes outside to follow her and gets surrounded by the police. Apparently, they found his license plate on the burned road, and instead of assuming that maybe it just fell off one of the vehicles, since to be fair, that was a very real possibility considering how when he drove down the street, all of this happened, but instead, they assume that he must somehow be responsible for all of this clearly supernatural damage, and they think that he must have been the guy who murdered that old railroad worker guy. The police interrogate Johnny. He tells them he wants to be a cop someday and tells them he knows their good cop, bad cop routine because he watches a lot of TV. So after they don't get anything out of him, they put him in a crowded cell with a bunch of other inmates. Johnny knows that the Ghost Rider will come out soon and probably kill all of these guys in the cell because it comes out at night whenever he is surrounded by evil. So he begs for the police to let him out. All of these guys instantly recognize that he is Johnny Blaze, the famous daredevil, and randomly want to beat him up for some reason. Like, seriously, this guy comes up with the most contrived reason to attack Johnny. Apparently, he saw him perform one time and wanted him to die in a crash, but Johnny didn't crash, so this guy was really sad. Like, what? I don't know. It's just clearly to have an excuse for why Ghost Rider can fight all of these guys. There's this one kid in the cell who tells them to leave Johnny alone, but they hit him and all gang up on Blaze. Of course, he turns into Ghost Rider and probably kills them all except for the one kid who was innocent. And we know this because Ghost Rider points at the kid and says, "Innocent." So he melts the bars and escapes, but this one cop guy runs up to the super-powered flaming skull guy with only a baton and tries to stop him from leaving. I seriously have no idea why this single officer thought he could stop a superhero by himself with only a baton. Like, I would have just ran away, dude. There's no shame in that. I mean, you're clearly outmatched here. Ghost Rider doesn't kill him. He just kind of awkwardly shakes his finger at him and tells him and drives off to find Blackheart. Blackheart, meanwhile, is at a church and says this:
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I've sinned a lot.
Yeah. The dialogue in this movie is peak writing. The priest was apparently a part of this, like, cult or something that was made to keep the 1,000 Evil Soul contract out of the devil's hands, so he doesn't tell Blackheart where it is, and Blackheart kills him. Johnny gets chased by the police because they think that he killed the railroad guy, and he totally just killed a bunch of prisoner guys in the cell, so they chase him, and Johnny chases Blackheart. A police helicopter attacks Johnny, so he wraps it up with his chain and tells the pilot that he is annoying him and then spins him around. Since Aang is the Avatar, Blackheart sends him to stop Ghost Rider, and he randomly says that Johnny should have joined Blackheart and they could have ruled the world together or something. But like, when was that ever an option, bro? Blackheart was never like, "Hey, Ghost Rider, bro, you're really cool and you have fire powers. You could, like, totally be Prince Zuko in season 3 of Avatar The Last Airbender and join us, bro. That was never a proposition he made the Ghost Rider. This whole time, he has been trying to kill Ghost Rider. So why would Johnny have, quote-unquote, joined them? It's just really stupid and really cringe dialogue. So anyways, Aang is beating Zuko because he's made out of air, and just like music, you can't touch air, but air can touch you. But Ghost Rider spins his chain really fast and sucks Aang into it and kills him by doing that somehow. Oh yeah, really quick, before I forget, Roxanne saw Ghost Rider driving up this building, which yeah, that also happened. But because she sees this, she now believes Johnny about him turning into a monster at night because he made a deal with the devil. So she decides to go over to where he is at. When the Ghost Rider gets back on the ground, he is surrounded by the police and Roxanne is there. He sees her and walks towards her, but the police take that as a threat and start shooting at him. So then, Electro starts to attack the NYPD and Spider-Man... Oh wait, wrong movie? Oh, might be. But while on the topic of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, you should definitely check out my review of it if you like this review. Link is in the description. Okay, now where were we? Oh, yeah. The police shoot at Ghost Rider and it doesn't affect him at all, and he drives off. Johnny goes to the graveyard to talk with the old Ghost Rider. I mean, what? I actually meant to say the totally not the old Ghost Rider guy. He goes to talk with that random gravedigger guy who's definitely not the old Ghost Rider, who just has very intimate knowledge about how being a rider works and all of these facts about the Ghost Rider, but is definitely not him. That guy tells Johnny that he has to stay away from his loved ones because otherwise Blackheart will use them against him. Meanwhile, Roxanne goes to Johnny's house to find him and she finds Mac, who I also kind of forgot was in this movie. He just straight up disappears for the entire second act, but he is still alive. Spoiler warning, not for too long though. And she asks him where Johnny is. He doesn't know, but he shows Roxanne the weird books Johnny was reading. Oh yeah, another thing I forgot to mention, sorry, this film is just super forgettable, was that Blackheart saw Johnny walk towards Roxanne in the police scene, and so he knows that Ghost Rider loves her. So he follows her to Johnny's apartment and kills Mac. He leaves Roxanne like sick or something, whatever this is, and Johnny rushes back to try to save her. Blackheart ambushes him and tells Johnny to bring him the 1,000 Evil Soul contract at Santa Coloma? I don't really remember the name of the city, nor do I care. Basically, it's just that city that was super evil and all those random people decided to sell their souls to the devil for some reason. If Johnny doesn't bring him the contract there by tomorrow morning, he will kill Roxanne. I just want to take the time to point out some very egregious plot holes here. Blackheart has no idea that Johnny even knows where the contract is. So why would he give him this ultimatum? And even if he somehow knew that Johnny knew where the contract was and could get it for him, why did he tell Johnny to meet him at a place that Johnny had no idea where to find? He doesn't even give him directions as to where that town is. Johnny only finds it because the old Ghost Rider shows him the way. So yeah, Blackheart is just kinda dumb. Johnny goes to the graveyard and attempts to dig up the grave of Schmitty Jenkins or whatever from Spongebob.
Smitty Werben Jägerman Jensen.
But then the graveyard guy breaks the shovel to show him that the contract was actually in the shovel the whole time. And then the most shocking thing ever happens. A twist no one saw coming. The next part will make you have to rethink everything you thought you knew. The whole movie changes because of this twist. Turns out, y'all ready for this? Turns out that the gravedigger guy was actually the original Ghost Rider the whole time. He whistles and a random horse we have never seen just comes out of the fog and the two Ghost Rider pals walk off to find
Santa Coloma,
or whatever that town Blackheart was in. They stop at the edge of the town. The old guy gives Johnny a shotgun and tells him that he could only transform one more time for some reason and leaves Johnny to fight Blackheart by himself. Well, that was really plot convenient. So for this next scene, I have a little theory here, and my theory is that the filmmakers forgot that Katara was still alive at this point in the movie, and they were like, oh no, this dude's still alive. Ghost Rider has to beat him at some point, and the movie is almost over. Okay, chill. We can still fix this. Okay, just have there be this random desert swamp that Ghost Rider has to go through, and then, Katara can attack him from the water that's there in the swamp, and then Ghost Rider will just kill Katara with, like, fire. He'll shoot fire inside of the water, and his fire is, like, super special, so it still works inside of the water, and Katara just, like, dies. Then after that, then he can go fight Blackheart. Like, for real, this scene is really randomly placed right before the main fight with Blackheart, and it just feels so off. Another great example of the extremely poor pacing of this movie. So, Ghost Rider kills Katara, finds Blackheart, and they make an exchange. Johnny tells Blackheart to give up Roxanne before he will give him the contract, and Blackheart foolishly obliges for some reason, losing his only bargaining chip before he even gets what he wants. And Johnny totally backstabs him and betrays him, doesn't give him the contract, and they get into a little tussle. This is supposed to be the climax of the movie, and wow, does it completely suck. It's like really bad. I mean, just take a look for yourself here. Even by this movie's fight scene standards, this fight is dog water, and that's really saying something. Anyways though, Blackheart comes out on top, gets the contract, and tells the evil souls to come to him. He gets like super powerful because of, well, you know, just how evil these souls are. And let's be fair here, there are like 1,000 of these really evil souls, so you all already know like how powerful this makes Blackheart now. Yeah, the power scaling in this movie is like Eddie Brock's pictures. It's trash. The sun starts to come up and Johnny starts to lose his powers, but if he is in the shade, then he still retains them. So he tries to lure Blackheart into the church, and Blackheart just like messes around with him and doesn't instantly kill him for some reason. Roxanne throws Johnny the shotgun, he holds it in the shade so it turns into a super cool shotgun, and it blows up Blackheart. But oh no, he is so powerful now that he can regenerate like he's Majin Buu, and that's where Johnny figures out that he can use his penance stare on the evil souls inside of Blackheart. Oh yeah, sorry, last time I'll do this, I promise. I forgot to mention that in their first scrap, he tried using the penance stare on Blackheart, but he said that since he didn't have a soul like he was Squidward tentacles, it didn't work on him. But now that he has 1,000 evil souls in him, the penance stare like kills him or something, and Ghost Rider wins. But look out, the devil comes spooking around, and he wants the contract now and tells Johnny that he can have his life back before he became the Ghost Rider. But Johnny aggressively points at him and tells him that he'll use the powers the devil gave him to fight the devil, and he'll never give him the contract. The devil whines like a little boy and leaves, and Johnny and Roxanne kiss and stuff. The movie ends with the old gravedigger guy giving some pathetic voiceover as Johnny rides off, does this really weird rock eyebrow raise, and then turns into the Ghost Rider. The music for the credits is this really bad, like, alternate version of Johnny Cash's Ghost Riders in the Sky, and wow, this movie sucked, and this review was way too long. I will say that Ghost Rider is such a bad movie that it is genuinely funny at some points. So I did enjoy watching it with my friends, you know, the first time. But would I ever recommend watching this movie 3 times within 4 days like I did? No. Never. 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 So that was Ghost Rider. Let me know what you all thought in the comments, and hopefully you enjoyed my review, and if you did, then I would really appreciate it if you left a like and subscribed and checked out some of my other reviews like this, because I think that they're pretty funny. Anyways, that's about it. I'll catch you all on the next one. Have a great day.